Good afternoon. I'm Renee Hayter, Deputy Director of Sustainable Jersey and the Sustainability Institute at the College of New Jersey. I'm so happy to have you here today for our Climate Summit session. The Climate Summit focuses on three main things. Why is climate change happening? How it will affect us and future generations, and what we can do about it as an individual, community, and society. Today's session primarily focuses on what you and your family can do. And I'm going to share my screen to get started. We're so happy to have Jess Liddick and Edward Musz here from Atlantic City Electric's energy efficiency team, who are going to talk about energy efficiency in your home and the things that you can do to improve it and reduce greenhouse gases. Before we get started, I just want to remind you all that we want this to be as interactive as possible. So please use the chat box to respond to questions that Jess and Edward may ask, or to just share your general comments on what's being talked about. Also, if you have a specific question for the speakers, please type that in the questions and answers box, and we'll be sure to get to it by the end of the program. Thank you. And without further ado, I want to turn it over to Jess.
I love chat. I've got it open on my side panel here. So use the chat if you have any questions or raise your hand. All right. So how do we use energy? When you think about energy, what does that mean? What do we do with electrical energy? So chat an example in the chat of like, what do you use electrical energy for? Let's see who can think of the craziest answer.
Heat. You got heat. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. To light your home. Yep. Charge your stuff, turning on the stove, everything. I like that answer.
Yeah, that's my favorite answer too. I like that.
Charge your stuff, the microwave, the motor one. These are all things in your home. Blender. Yep, washing the dishes. Ooh, hair curler. I hadn't thought of that one. That's good. I hadn't thought about the bathroom. Some of our highest energy users are actually in the bathroom with the straight iron and stuff. How many of you use TikTok and Instagram and all of that data that you're creating is stored somewhere. It's stored in data warehouses that use an incredible amount of air conditioning to keep all the servers cool. So next time you're on TikTok, think about your data warehouse, saving your stuff. Did anyone say your refrigerator yet?
Any electronics, phones.
Mm-hmm. Oh, your alarm. Yep. Modem. Yep, I always think about that. If the power goes out, I'm like, oh, at least I have Wi-Fi. And then I'm like, no, you lose Wi-Fi too. Okay, washing and drying your clothes, your watches. Yep, you got to charge your watch. Okay, more and more you'll see vehicles can be charged with electricity, take out emissions from transportation, to pump sewage around, like water pumps, things like that. Kind of gnarly, you don't think about keeping, yep, exactly. Piper and Kelly got good ones. So all of these things use electricity. So this is good brainstorming for like what uses electricity, and like even as you look around, a lot of what we do and actively do every day is connected to something that we've powered with electrical energy. So where does that electrical energy come from? Like, what's the source? So I'm going to hand it over back to Edward to talk about where it comes from.
Yeah, so, I spoke a little earlier about it. We flip the switch and we just assume it's like magic, right? The light comes on, let there be light. It just happens. And we don't think about all the work that goes into it. So that energy is actually generated, sometimes pretty far away. And if we see here on the, the pretty pie chart on the left, it talks about the energy sources here in New Jersey. And you notice a large part of it here is we have some gas, coal, and nuclear. And on the right side, we have the primary for the total United States of America. And you see there's a lot of petroleum and natural gas. So Jersey actually has pretty clean energy sources. So my goal is stuff, zero carbon energy sources. Those are my favorite. Nuclear is usually very clean. And we want to make sure that we use renewables as well. So, renewables are like those wind turbines that you see, or you might see solar panels on roofs on houses. Those are very clean as well. But you can see as we transition, we move to cleaner and cleaner energy sources. And I've noticed since, when I was a kid, the energy sources have changed a lot, and I think they're going to continue. So you're going to see the pie continue to grow to have more renewables and clean energy sources. So I'm very interested to see how things progress, in the future. It's really good news. Jersey's ahead of the curve, and we should all be very proud that we have clean energy sources to power us, because where our energy comes from is very important in just the air that we breathe and our good health and well-being. So it's a very important, we don't want to take for granted, and we want to make sure that we're very conscious of where the energy comes from when we turn on the light. So when we turn it on, we can be happy that it's coming from a very clean place and not a dirty source of energy. Back to you, Jess.
Yep, exactly. So as we think about clean energy, so once those generation sources, you're going to have a mix. There's a lot of effort going into making those more and more renewables and zero net carbon generation. So let's think and talk more about what a clean energy future looks like. Oh, and there's a lot going on this slide, so let me talk through it. So a modern grid, when you think about the grid, it includes kind of what one person had said on what we use electricity for, everything really. It's kind of how the grid is too. It's generation. So all of these sources on the right, your wind energy, thermal power, all of the generation, solar, nuclear, all of that powers the supply of electricity, and then up to your outlet. And then from the outlet, you've got buildings using energy, you've got people, cars, everything that's plugged in, and the grid just kind of connects everything. So when that grid is modernized, that's a key part of a clean energy future. So a modern grid helps make it possible to act smarter, be efficient, and ultimately roll out what we want for our future, that zero carbon kind of future. So there's three main areas of modernization for the grid. So the grid, I've heard it described as the largest machine that man has ever built, right? So if you think of our grid as like early 1900s, electricity was being created and like literally created, and the power lines were put up. It's a really interesting story, but it needs to be modernized, right? Like we can't always rely on 20th century components, right? So you can modernize them strategically in order to power your clean energy future. So I hope I'm not being too esoteric. Let me know in the chat if you're like, wait, I don't know what you're talking about. So yes, don't be shy. Three areas of grid modernization that ACE in particular is focused on. So one is smart metering. So if a meter box will measure how much energy you're using, right? And so a smart meter enables you to do so much at a building level because you have that information. You can't control what you can't measure, right? So having a smart meter helps you with that. Energy efficiency, which is what Edward and I are big nerds and what we do for a living, and we'll talk more about. And then electric vehicles are also a big part of a modern grid. So that's a whole nother topic that's also very exciting. So what is energy efficiency? So before we dig into it, let's do a quick poll on what you think of when you think of energy efficiency. All right. So what is energy efficiency? Is it turning down the volume on your television, doing the same thing, but with less energy, or opening your fridge only once a day? That was something my dad challenged me to do as a kid. He worked for a power company. Okay, so what do you think? Yeah, hope you saw in the chat, Renee said there's a session on Friday on EVs. Okay, do we have drum roll? Yay, okay, great. So yes, energy efficiency, at its like heart of hearts, energy efficiency is doing the same thing with less energy. So energy conservation is where you just sort of try to do less, like leave your lights off. Energy efficiency is keep your lights on, but use smarter technology. So a more precise definition might be choosing technology that just demands less energy from the grid. And this thermocam here on the left is one of my favorite tools for energy efficiency. Just like the temp checks that we're all now familiar with. This is infrared camera that you just pointed at a house or a wall or a corner, and it shows you where your heating and cooling is like leaking, or you might have hot spots in your house or drafts. So you can use thermo imaging like this to help you find spots in your home. Okay, so that's what energy efficiency is. Yeah, has anyone ever seen one of those? Or would you want to?
It's similar to the thing when they used to, test your temperature when you go into a building or something to make sure you don't have a fever. So it's very similar technology, I think, right, Jess?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's really cool. You can like take snapshots and put it into home energy reports. Awesome. Okay, so let me make it advanced. So can ACE help you be energy efficient?
And I saw another interesting comment about the, issues in Texas and the energy grids there. They had a few of those windmills freeze up and other problems there, and it's caused a lot of problems there. And many times when these things happen, it could be a life or death situation, especially if there's a hospital and there's people on different of equipment and things like that. So it just shows how interesting and how important it is to have a resilient energy grid. So that was a really interesting comment out there. I just wanted to point that out. It's interesting though, because I find that, my job is one of the few ones where we actually help people use less of something, and most jobs, it seems like we're always trying to get people to use more things. So it's kind of a funny thing. So I saw a question. Oh, there might be a question in the chat there. Feel free to ask there. But can ACE help me be energy efficient? And the answer is yes. We actually have a lot of programs to help people be energy efficient, so they can save money on bills and they can do more things that they like. And also they're helping the environment as well. So we do have a lot of different programs that help people in New Jersey be more energy efficient. We're going to talk about a few of those with you now, so you can participate, when you get your first apartment someday, or help your parents as well, be more efficient with their homes as well. So the first step of being more energy efficient at home is something we call a virtual home energy checkup. And right now, this is something we're doing virtually. Before the pandemic, we actually would have a contractor that would visit your home, and they would provide tips and tricks to really make your home more energy efficient. Right now, we're doing that more virtually. So this can be done via a video or an app, but they're designed to help you save energy. And it's really, free, easy, and fun. It's almost like a game. Sometimes I see like how low I can get my energy bill. It's kind of a fun thing to see, like how much can I help the environment or the world. So it's something that I think is a lot of fun, and something that you can also take advantage of in your homes as well, to make sure that you're doing the most that you can do.
About that. So I'm going to talk more about what that actually is like. So as part of ACES programs, they have this virtual home energy checkup that you can do. So I'm going to talk through the steps of how you do that. Like, what is it and how do you do it? So your first step is to schedule a checkup through the website. So ACE has a website where you just sign up and it schedules a time for you to do a walkthrough of your home, either just talking with someone or showing them on your phone. Show them around your house and say, you know, here's the thermostat, here are my lights, here's my fridge. You show them around. And as you do it, the contractor on the other end evaluates your home and puts it together in a home efficiency report. So it will have a report at the end of it where you talk through it, look at the different systems in your home and identify the best ways to be energy efficient. So I believe Kelly had a question in the Q&A about, well, what's the best way to save energy? And it's largely going to be building specific. So your first step, if you want to be energy efficient, is to look at your building, look at what's in it, and do this assessment. So the virtual home energy checkup is a way for you to not have to do that yourself. Like, you can have a professional walk through your home and they know all that you will need to know about how to be energy efficient. So you'd look at that report together, then just one-on-one talk about it, they would provide direct feedback to you, like, hey, did you notice the thing in your ceiling is actually a huge gaping hole and all of the heat is leaving your house? That is what I found out in my home energy assessment, is that we have like 60% leakage in my house and it's not good. So you find actionable things like that in your report, and then other tips and recommendations for what you can do. And after that, you would get a free kit in the mail that would include some of the things. Edward's going to talk through them in a little bit. But you get that free kit in the mail of different items like light bulb or thermostat, things like that, that you install on your own. And then afterwards, the contractor will call you. And if you had questions like, where do I put this light bulb? Where I forgot where we had said, the contractor then walks you through it and says, okay, this is kind of your low hanging fruit is what you call it. It's the easier stuff to do. And then the contractor will call and say, okay, you know, based on the report, you had these other 4 things. How might you want to tackle it? So that's kind of the virtual home energy checkup nose to tail. Is that any questions about any part of the process? I have a little bit of time. Okay, so what might you see as you go through a virtual home energy checkup? So things that you might see, this is 4 different kinds of light bulbs. And we'll do a quick poll on which one of these is the most energy efficient. And this is, yeah, pictures match the words, if you're wondering. Okay, so everybody answered the poll? Which one you think is most efficient, energy efficient? And if you're wondering, are they the same color or is it the same level of brightness? Then yes, it is. These would all be the same. You can do the same color, warmth, or the same. Great, good job. The LED, so it's kind of sneaky, right? Like the D, the one on the far right, is an LED, and it's the most energy efficient. But just looking at it, you know, it doesn't look like anything fancy. But LED lighting is actually the first time that humans have figured out how to make light with electronics rather than, you know, either a gas or a metal kind of decay, which is the other types of light. So LED light bulbs are, you know, that's just it's hard to emphasize the scale that LEDs have made energy efficiency possible. So you'd want to look around your house and especially look where you use lights the most. So if you've got, you know, the swirly bulbs is what some people call them. If you've got CFLs like in a spot you never use, then it's probably not that big of a problem. But for a light that you've got on all the time, so like if you have a couple lamps that are, you just have them on all the time, those are the ones you will want to replace to be LEDs. So to give you a sense of scale, the one on the right, A, is an incandescent. It's like what you're used to seeing, right? Like that's like Thomas Edison's original design, essentially. You would see those using about 100 watts. And then for D, the LED, those use about 10 watts each. So you could have 10 of these LEDs on, the same level of like wattage, same level of brightness, same color. You can have 10 of those for just one of the incandescents. So it's huge. Whenever I feel bad about having a light on all the time, I'm like, but it's an LED. It's like 1/10 of the energy. So let's see. Yeah. They save energy and they don't get hot. Yeah, exactly. You're not going to burn yourself on an LED. It's kind of great. So yeah, if you're not sure what kind of light you have, you can Google light bulb by shape. And it's a lot. There's a lot of lighting types on the market. It's easy to get kind of lost in it. But definitely look for what's on the inside here. So this is a telltale sign of a halogen light. And then incandescents always have like a little piece of metal across two other pieces of metal. And it's a horribly inefficient way to make light, but that's how you can tell an incandescent bulb from the rest. Okay. What's next? So what else might you see in your virtual home energy checkup? You could see, take a look at your thermostat. So thermostats, of course, control if you've got a centralized air conditioning and heating system. You can do manual, digital, or a smart thermostat. So we've got another poll here for which one is the most efficient. So here we go. With this one, it's kind of an easy one. So which thermostat helps you be the most efficient? Analog, digital, or smart thermostat? In the business, we call these T-stats. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up the poll. See how we did. Smart thermostats. Yep. Smart thermostats help you be efficient. I don't know if I phrased that right. They can help you be the most efficient. And what's smart about smart thermostats is it's a very big area. So you can do a lot with smart thermostats from the standpoint of occupancy sensing. So they can tell, like when you walk by the smart thermostat, it'll light up. And it's not just charming, it also is knowing whether or not it should turn your HVAC on for you. So it senses whether or not you're in your home and turns your system on or off based on the settings that you've given it. So if you leave for, vacation, I'm dreaming of doing that one day. So if you leave, but you've left your thermostat on high, your house just runs the AC all the time while you're gone. With a Nest or with a smart thermostat, it will sense that you're not there and it'll ratchet it down to your not home situation, to the settings that you've given it for when you're not at home. So you can just live your life and enjoy and not even have to think about it. You save energy without even having to like actively manage it.
There's an interesting comment, Jess, about A would be less because it doesn't have to power screens. But that's actually not true because it uses LED screens. So you know these LED light bulbs that we're talking about, the screens are actually LED too. So they're actually very efficient and they don't use much power up at all. So the power that you get by, saving on the temperature or on the thermostat outweighs the screen.
Yep, that's a really good point. So the thermostat itself's usage versus the usage of the system it's controlling. So yeah, the control itself will save you much more than any energy it uses to light up the screen. That's a good point though. So with digital ones, the green B in the middle here, you can still set it. A lot of people just don't do a lot of work setting up their digital thermostat in a way that smart thermostats just sort of handle it for you. So like if you have a set schedule, the Nest smart thermostat will help you do that. Like it'll just know. You don't have to tell it. Okay. So the next thing you might notice on a walkthrough of your home is how much stuff is plugged in. And some stuff is plugged in and it's not used. Like your TV, a lot of times in particular, like you'll have it plugged in, but it's off, or a printer, or all kinds of things. So you can have a smart thermostat with certain outlets on it that are controlled. So it will shut off energy going to those devices. So have you all heard familiar with the phrase energy vampire? Have you guys heard of that? Has anybody heard of it? Yep. Nope. Okay, so energy vampires are where you've got a device plugged in and it's using energy even though it's off. So it's a pretty sneaky way. I think I've seen estimates between 5 and 10% based on how much you have plugged in your home. That's how much energy might be used on things that are off. So that's why they're called vampires, just because it's like, it's not even on. Why is it using energy? So we've got another poll of all the things you've got plugged in your home. Which do you think uses the most energy, even when it's off? Like even when you don't have it on. So that's, I think this is our last poll question. So of all these things plugged in, your phone charger, your laptop, a television, or your Xbox, what uses the most energy even when it's off? I do not have the new PS5, in case you're curious.
I think they're hard to get.
Yeah.
I want one.
I know one of our colleagues stayed in line for like to try to get one. Okay, so what do you guys think? What uses the most energy? I imagine results will be off. I had to look this one up. I didn't know this one. Great, man, you guys did great. Okay, so let me pull up. The majority of the votes were for television. And I've got a little graphic. So yeah, absolutely. Televisions, if you like unplugged your TV or put it in a controlled outlet when you're not around, you could save up to $160 a year. Like just from having it either on a smart strip or turning it or unplugging it. Game consoles were number 2. Those are about $75 a year you could save. And then computers, laptops were 3rd and 4th place. So I knew it was a lot. I didn't know it was that much for televisions. It's kind of a lot. Okay, what's going on in the chat? Okay, so next up, And I think we'll have time for Q&A. So yeah, Edward's going to talk through the kit.
Oh, thanks, Jess. I thought that was really cool information. But I want everyone to know that at Atlantic City Electric, you can actually take advantage of some of those products you were just talking about. So we have what we call is an energy kit, and you can see the box on the right, and it's a free selection of energy efficient products. So if you go on our website and request one, we'll send one of these to your homes, and you can actually install some of these products we were just talking about, and you can see firsthand, like the LED light bulbs, they don't get hot. You don't have to put a sock on your hand to take it out, things like that. You can put the smart power strip and learn about the energy vampires. So it's a really interesting way to get more familiar, because I feel like once you understand these things, it's something that stays with you, for life. And you'll always think about, wow, how can I be more efficient? How can I help the environment? You can see the Nest thermostat and how that works. It's so cool. So like say your dad likes it like really cold or something, he can like walk in and it'll automatically know he's there, and it can adjust it, if someone wants it hotter. So it can do a lot of really interesting things. And even on the shower heads is interesting, because you take a shower and sometimes we waste water doing that. We don't realize we don't need as much water as we use. So we can use a shower head that actually uses a little less water. It's still enough to get you clean. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it saves a lot of water. You'd be surprised how many gallons of water we can use by letting the shower run for a long time or using an inefficient shower head. And aerator is just a fancy name for a faucet. So it's a little thing you screw on the bottom of a faucet, and a little less water comes out too. So it saves water that, and also energy to heat water. Because a lot of people don't realize when you have hot water, you have to heat it somehow, like that. But it's really a great way to get accommodated to the things we're talking about here. And again, it's free. So I would suggest you all take advantage, tell your parents about it, and you can learn firsthand and touch and feel and kind of play with some of the equipment that we talked about today.
RC is actually ahead of the curve. So talking about what's next and how do you get one of these free kits. So I'm going to talk through 4 action items, 4 or 5, and then seems like we've got plenty of time for Q&A. So let me run through the action items, things to think about, and love to hear from you all next on any questions that came to mind as we've gone through this, or anything you might want to think about for your project, your climate project. Okay, so 4 different things. Energy efficiency is something you can start doing right now. So just even assessing your building, that's kind of step 1, right? So start small and never stop. Check it out, and we have a checklist, a PDF checklist you can use that we'll send to Renee to get started. You can sign up for the virtual home energy checkup with Atlantic City Electric. I've got a link here in the deck, and we're going to paste it in the chat as well. So you go through the process of doing that checkup, and you would then get the kit in the mail for free. So third thing you can do is think about your climate action project, how you use energy in your home all day, every day. If you leave your home, I haven't left my home in a while, but if and when you do, check out like, how is this, the grocery store? What lights do they have on? Do they have skylights? Once you start to notice what's in the buildings that you are in, it does become just part of how you see the world. So take a look. Visit the ACE website, and you can schedule your virtual home energy checkup there. And there's other tools and resources there on that website if you're interested in energy efficiency. So I don't know if it'll let me. And that's it. So next we were just gonna talk about energy efficiency, more specifics. So I think it was Kelly had a question earlier about the best ways to be energy efficient. So if you guys still have that question, you want us to talk more about that, we can do that. The link to the website is now in the chat. Thank you, Andrea. And I will stop sharing my screen. Not everybody at once.
I have a question, Jess or Edward, do you know how many of these virtual energy checkups you've done in the last 6 months or a year?
Yes, I had that. It's thousands. Give me 1 second. I can find that for you. And like I think Edward had said, we usually do them in person, but we've switched to the virtual way to do it.
And do the, is something that comes out of the virtual energy checkup an estimate of how much they could save by implementing some of the things that are discussed or recommended?
Yep, absolutely. So you would have in that report, you'd have it kind of like a pie chart where you say, you know, 60% of your usage is likely from heating and cooling, 30% from your appliances, like you washer, dryer, clothes washing, dishwashing, other things like that.
So that could be a project if for the Student Climate Summit, if a small group of students wanted to get together and try to encourage a small group of friends and relatives that live in a service territory to do the virtual checkup and then kind of calculate the energy savings from just that team's efforts.
That's a great idea. I love the team idea.
Does anybody else have any other questions? There are also other great incentives that are available through the Board of Public Utilities to implement energy savings measures like rebates if you buy energy efficiency appliances and low-cost loans to upgrade your heating and cooling systems, things like that. So I encourage everybody on here to check out their local utility ACE's website, and also South Jersey Gas's website and the Board of Public Utilities website for ways that they can get incentives that will help reduce the cost of implementing the energy efficiency upgrades. So in addition to saving energy, you'll save money with all these incentives. Okay. I'll give one last chance for some questions. Anybody want to post something in the chat or in the questions and answers box? Any question that you might have about energy efficiency or potential projects in this area?
There's a question in the chat from Amy. Are the links to the light bulbs and service info? So the links themselves are for the ways to save tools, resources pages. That link is to the ACE website where you can sign up for the virtual energy checkup. And so through that checkup process, the contractor will see like, okay, you could use 3 light bulbs and a thermostat. And so that's what then goes into the kit. So that's, you'll do the checkup first, and then they'll ship out what's most relevant to you in your home. So you have to do that first, and then you'll get the free stuff.
There's a question in the chat from Amy about whether the project is per student or individual. So the climate contest that follows the climate summit, if that's what you're asking about, is a project that a small group of students do together. The project can focus on doing things in your homes, in your school, or in your communities, but the idea is to kind of work on it with a group. And so if you're focused on individual things like doing the virtual home energy walkthrough, the students would kind of encourage a group of other people to do it, and then you would kind of analyze the results and kind of share each person in the group which contribute to that, and then kind of write a report and do a video, which is what the contest submission is going to be, a video of what was completed and how it helps impact or address climate change. So Andrea is answering the questions that are coming up about the contest. So any students will be supervised by their teachers that have registered you all for the climate summit. And each group of students can pick a different project. The closing session of the climate summit on March 22nd will kind of go in more detail about the contest, and we'll have a guide for students and for teachers that are involved. So with that, I just want to give a couple of closing comments and remind you to do the survey at the end of this session, so that it will help us for future planning efforts. But as I mentioned, we have a bunch of student sessions lined up from now until the end of March. March 22nd is the last session. The recordings for the sessions that have already taken place are posted on the Sustainable Jersey website. We do have a couple more sessions lined up on energy. This on Friday is the one on the EV revolution. And on next Tuesday, we're going to be talking more in detail about renewable energy options in the ACE service territory. And then to switch gears a little bit, on Friday the 12th, we're going to be doing knowing your food and knowing your environment. And then we'll kind of transfer into more talking about individual projects that people can do. And as an added bonus, a bunch of professionals from ACE are going to do a careers in energy session on Friday, because energy is the key kind of issue area that needs to be addressed to address climate change, and careers in energy will be a critical factor in our futures. And then the next slide lists all the professional development sessions that we have for teachers. And again, the recordings of these sessions will be posted on the Sustainable Jersey for Schools website. Tomorrow is a session on the new climate change student learning standards, and for middle school teachers. And there are links on the Sustainable Jersey website to register for them if you haven't seen that. And then just kind of a recap that the climate challenge, as I said, the summit runs through March 22nd, and the contest registrations opens by March 15th. You don't have to have attended all the climate summit sessions to register for the contest, but you will need to register, with a teacher through your school. To learn more information about people registering for the summit or the contest, they can go to that bit.ly link that's posted. The climate contest submissions are due June 11th. So registration starts on March, and you have a few months to do your project and create your video. And any questions you have at all, please feel free to email the NJ Student Climate Challenge at sustainablejersey.com website, and we'll be happy to answer them. So after setting all that, just another final reminder to please do your survey, and we will be ending the session just a few minutes early today. So thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing your schools represented at our next session on Friday. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.